Good morning. I have Cooper here to say good morning. This is my dad, Cooper. He wants to listen to the story too. All right. Lay down, Coops. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Let's get to our morning message and then to our story. Good morning, kindies. Today is Tuesday, and it is day 35 of learning at home. 35. We are really getting up there in our numbers of at-home learning, huh? And we're really filling up our 10 frames. So let's take a look at what we have. Today's day 35. Let's see what we have from the last time we met. We know we can count our 10 frames by tens, right? When it's full. 10, 20, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Okay, and we may also be starting to recognize that when half the 10 frame is full, we know that's 5. So 10, 20, 30, 5. And that matches. This is the 3 is 30. That's for our 3 10 frames. And the 5 is 5 ones. Excellent. Okay. Now I'm going to read you another one of my favorites. It's called The Biggest House in the World. And it's by Leo Leone. See that cute little snail with his big shell? Here we go. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see the picture. Some snails lived on a juicy cabbage. They moved gently around, carrying their houses from leaf to leaf in search of a tender spot to nibble on. So their house is their shell. So when it says they're carrying their house around, they're carrying their shell. One day, a little snail said to his father, "When I grow up, I want to have the biggest house in the world." "That is silly," said his father, who happened to be the wisest snail on the cabbage. "Some things are better small." And he told this story. "Once upon a time, a little snail just like you said to his father, 'When I grow up, I want to have the biggest house in the world.' 'Some things are better small,' said his father. 'Keep your house light and easy to carry.'" So there's the daddy snail and the little snail talking on the cabbage. But the little snail would not listen, and hidden in the shade of a large cabbage leaf, he twisted and twitched this way and that until he discovered how to make his house grow. It grew and grew, and the snails on the cabbage said, "You surely have the biggest house in the world. Look at the size of that now." Here are all the other snails with normal size shells. There's the little snail with his big shell. The little snail kept on twisting and twitching until his house was as big as a melon. Then, by moving his tail swiftly from left to right, he learned to grow large, pointed bulges. My goodness. Look at the little snail, and look at his humongous shell. With all those bulges. And by squeezing and pushing, and by wishing very hard, he was able to add bright colors and beautiful designs. Now he knew that his was the biggest and the most beautiful house in the whole world. He was proud and happy. Where is he? I don't even think he's on this page. His shell is so big it takes up the whole page. A swarm of butterflies flew overhead. "Look," one of them said, "a cathedral." "No," said another, It's a circus. They never guessed that what they were looking at was the house of a snail. And a family of frogs on their way to a distant pond stopped in awe. Never, they later told some cousins, never have you seen such an amazing sight. An ordinary little snail with a house like a birthday cake. So there's the frog family. There's the little snail with his big birthday cake looking shell. One day, after they had eaten all the leaves and only a few knobby stems were left, the snails moved to another cabbage. But the little snail, alas, couldn't move. His house was much too heavy. So the cabbage they'd been on was all eaten. There's just one little leaf left. So all the other snails were going to move over to this new cabbage. But his house was so big he couldn't move. He was left behind, and with nothing to eat, he slowly faded away. Nothing remained but the house, and that too, little by little, crumbled until nothing remained at all. That was the end of the story. The little snail was almost in tears. But then he remembered his own house. I shall keep it small, he thought, and when I grow up, I shall go wherever I please. Did he listen to his dad's story? Did he seem to understand? Yeah, because he said, well, I know when I grow up, I'm going to keep my house small, and I can go wherever I want. And so one day, light and joyous, he went on to see the world. Some leaves fluttered lightly in the breeze, and others hung heavily to the ground. Where the dark earth had split, crystals glittered in the early sun. There were polka-dotted mushrooms and towery stems from which little flowers seemed to wave. There was a pine cone lying in the lacy shade of ferns, and pebbles in a nest of sand, smooth and round like the eggs of the turtle dove. Lichen clung to the rocks and bark to the trees. The tender buds were sweet and cool with morning dew. The little snail was very happy. I always like looking at this page. There's so much descriptive about this page when I was reading. I'm going to read it again and see if you can find the things. It said, where the dark earth had split, crystals glittered in the early sun. So I think this is where the dark earth split. Do you see the crystals? There were polka-dotted mushrooms. Do you see the polka-dotted mushrooms? You see them? And towery stems from which little flowers seemed to wave. Do you see the towery stem with the little flowers on it? There was a pine cone laying in the lacy shade of ferns. Do we see a pine cone in here anywhere? I'm not sure that I see the pine cone. I'm not sure if that's in here. And pebbles in a nest of sand that were smooth and round. I think I see pebbles in the sand. Do you? It looks smooth. Oh, there's the pine cone. See? I turn the page. There's the smooth pebbles. And the bark clinging to the tree. The pine cone in the shade of the lacy fern. That is such a pretty picture. And look how happy he is. He can go wherever he wants because he kept his house small. What do you think the author wanted us to know, huh? What do you think? It's a pretty deep message in this book. I think what I take from it is more for when you grow up. But just don't spend more than you can. You know, keep things in check when you grow up, and don't spend too much money, and live within your means, and you will be all set. And this little snail certainly did learn that lesson from his dad. He listened and he kept his house small. I wish you all a great day. Bye, everybody.